Hello, Magnetic Babes, and welcome back to the Magnetic Babe podcast. My name is Dina, your host, and today we're going to talk about shifting perspective and how to use that to your benefit when you're manifesting. Shifting perspective, in my opinion, is also correlated with you changing your state of mind in order to manifest. It also means changing your state of identity in order to manifest. A simple, slight change in perspective can do wonders for your life. Like, it can literally change your life. The first thing that I teach my students in order to manifest is slightly changing their perspective in life. If you have a negative perspective, and I think we talked about this in the last episode or the one before it, but if you have a negative perspective, more than likely you're going to attract negative things in your life. But if you slowly start to shift your perspective, like if you start with that as a starting point for you, it's much easier for you to grasp like the law of attraction and manifestation, because it's something that you can do every day, right? Like you can make the decision or the choice to see something in a different perspective, in a different lens. So when I'm teaching my students how to start to manifest, if they're very new to manifestation or law of attraction, I basically tell them, wake up every day. And if there is something that is like bothering you or that you're not liking, then shift your perspective about that thing. And the reason why shifting your perspective will do wonders in your life is because incrementally, if you catch those thoughts of like being in the negative state, in the negative mindset, catching that in the moment and shifting your perspective is going to net you exactly what you want. It's going to net you a positive outcome. When I started manifestation, about 7 or 8 years ago, my perspective about everything was really negative. Like, it was very, very hard for me to break through those like subconscious patterns that I had, because they were deeply rooted in like my past and in traumas and in a lot of like negativity. So it was really hard for me to start to break those. Shifting my perspective every single day helped me to break those blocks. It helped me to understand like my brain better. It helped me to understand that I had a really negative mindset. A lot of times we don't notice that we have a negative perspective on things. And when we shift from negative to positive, even in the slightest bit, like you just notice a negative thought come in, and then you switch to a positive perspective about it in whatever way that you can, you slowly start to move the dial from like a completely negative perspective to a positive one. And it's a slow shift. It's like, it takes work, and it takes every day you noticing those negative thoughts or you being in a negative perspective and shifting to a positive one. I feel like shifting perspective also goes hand in hand with identity work. Because when we are in a negative identity about ourselves, whether we feel like unloved or like we can't make enough money because we don't have the right education or the right skill set, when we feel these things about ourselves, these negative things, they kind of are deeply rooted also in the subconscious. So when you're shifting perspective in the moment, it's actually teaching your brain how to view the positive instead of the negative, to look for the positive instead of the negative. And that slowly changes your identity to be a more positive identity, to feel like you can attract the things that you want, whether it's money or love or success or fame, whatever it is that you're wanting. Have you ever seen the meme where two men are on a bus and one is staring at the rocks and has like a frown on his face, and the other guy is staring out into the mountains, smiling really big? And I think that the meme said something like, perspective is key or something like that. But that is exactly what I'm talking about. You can choose to look at something positively, or you can choose to look at something negatively. And whatever you choose, just know that it's building neural pathways in your brain, deep in the subconscious. Shifting perspective also is a decision. It's a choice that you make. Let's say that you lose your job and you feel like it's the end of the world, or someone breaks up with you and you feel like it's the end of the world. In that moment, instead of going into like a spiral and thinking like the world's over and thinking badly about yourself, like, what did I do? I'm a terrible person, or like, I'm not worthy, or whatever the thoughts may be, you can shift your perspective to think, you know what, this was for the best, and I know something better is coming along. Just that little shift in you thinking there's a reason for it, and the reason is a positive reason and not a negative, and has something to do with you and you're flawed as a person, and like the world is over and the downward spiral, all the things. You can shift your perspective into thinking something positive about the outcomes. Those little shifts in perspective will change your life. If you start with something so small, your brain starts to recognize that you're always looking for the positive. So it's going to look for the positive instead of the negative. Again, this is like not something easy to do because we are programmed subconsciously to think negative thoughts. And when you're trying to shift your perspective, you're going to get a little bit of resistance where you feel like you're lying to yourself, or you don't feel the positivity or the good vibration in something bad that's happening. And I understand that because I was there also. But the more that you do this, the more you train your brain to think positively or see positively. That is a life changer. I'm telling you guys, start with something small. If something bad happens throughout your day and you feel like, you're about to spiral, change your perspective about the situation. Whatever the situation is, look at the silver lining, or even change it in your mind, like brainwash yourself into thinking that something positive could come from that. And the more that you do this, like I said, the more you create positive pathways, neural pathways in your brain to start looking for only positives. This is how you change from being in a negative mindset to a positive one, where it's permanent. This is something that you have to do constantly, but it nets you a permanent positive mindset where if something bad does happen or something negative happens to you, you don't sulk in it. It's like seconds where you feel bad and then you're like, all right, we're out of there. It's so much better for you, for your brain, for your 3D reality, for things that you want to manifest. Also, you're just a more pleasant person to be around because you're not, in the victim mindset or nagging about your problems. And you're also helping other people see the silver lining in their issues or problems or whatever, and changing their perspectives. My mother, for example, has a really negative perspective on life. And this is something that I've struggled with because me being, who I am and teaching positivity and, preaching it, my mom has been my hardest nut to crack. And of course, I don't feel like it's totally her fault because she has programming from her past and traumas and all the other stuff. But I do try to teach her in every, complaint that she has, that there is something positive that is going to come from it, and to look at it in a positive way. And it's been really hard for her because, like I said, she's been programmed to be so negative, but I see a little bit of change in her. Every time she's complaining to me, she'll catch herself and be like, you know what? There's a reason this is happening. And maybe it's because of this and not because of this. So there is a slight change in her. And if she can change, I feel like anybody on earth can change. Shifting perspectives also helps with anxiety. It helps you see things more clearly. When you're in a positive perspective, you don't see things as clouded where your nervous system is riled up and you feel like you're in fight or flight and you can't think straight. So when you're shifting perspective into something positive, it kind of calms your anxiety. It soothes your anxiety because you're looking at something that you feel like you can figure out, that there's a way out. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas when you're in a negative perspective, everything is so skewed because you're in fight or flight that you're not seeing the bigger picture or a way out. So let me give you some examples on how you can shift your perspective in different scenarios. Let's say that you're dating someone and that person is acting weird or they're pulling away. And your first thought is, okay, it's something that I did. It's something that's wrong with me. It's something that I'm flawed, right? I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable. They're pulling away. They don't like me. Instead of thinking these thoughts, shift your perspective to think, I am an amazing person. There is nothing wrong with me. This person is either having a bad week or a bad day, or there's something going on with them that has nothing to do with me. That eases the anxiety and the tension, because the truth is maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe it's something that's going on with them. It has nothing to do with you and you're spiraling and putting it on yourself. Or another example is let's say that you have a coworker that you feel like doesn't like you or is out to get you. And you feel like they're doing things to kind of get under your skin or make you feel less than them or whatever the case may be. Instead of thinking these thoughts and feeling these negative feelings about this person, you can easily shift your perspective to think, there is nothing wrong with me. I have done nothing to them. This is not my problem. This is not personal. That has nothing to do with me. A shift that small can change the outcome of anything. Because when you're thinking more positively, you're going to get more positive outcomes. If you're thinking negatively, you're going to get negative outcomes. This is literally training your brain to see the positive in everything so that you can manifest positive things in your life. You cannot take everything so personal. You cannot make everything about you. Even if it is about you, even if it is personal, don't take it personal and don't make it about you. Because the minute that you put that inwards and you take that energy in is when things start to go wrong in your 3D reality. So let's keep a positive perspective and keep shifting our perspective to more positive so that we can have and manifest our dream lives.